Hello and welcome to Moira on the Ashby Canal. Hard to believe it today, but this was once a very heavily industrialised area. But some of those relics of that time still survive. Welcome to Moira Furnace. We start our tour of the site at Moira with a look at the furnace building itself. The bridge that spans the Ashby Canal would have carried a horse-drawn tramway which would have led into the upper part of the building, known as the bridge loft. This would have been used for storing the materials used in the furnace. Standing proud at the far end of the bridge ramp is the furnace itself, a huge pyramid structure with a lot of arches. But to get some idea of what the site looked like in its heyday, here is a model, and it shows the complex of buildings that were needed for Moira blast furnace to function. First, supplies would have been brought in across the bridge ramp and into the bridge loft by horse-drawn tramway. Supplies, that is, of iron ore and limestone and coke, the recipe for making iron. This mixture is then known as the charge. Once the charge was prepared and ready, it would have been taken from the bridge loft out of these doors to the top of the furnace and put into the furnace, therefore charging the furnace. Meanwhile, down below, at the bottom of the furnace, temperatures could be in excess of 1200 degrees centigrade, the temperature needed to melt iron. The blast of air was supplied by a powerful steam engine, double acting, which fed air into the blast furnace at 2 points near the base. Sadly, all that's left of the engine house is this floor plan, marked out by a line of bricks. Meanwhile, back in the furnace, the iron had been melting over a period of time and had formed in a pool at the bottom. It was then tapped off and followed the marker bricks, which shows the run of the molten iron into the moulds, which were known as pigs, because of their resemblance to a mother pig suckling her piglets. The moulding shop also doubled as a workshop, and fine work was produced here, such as this fine ornate example of a water wheel dated 1841. The furnace had been built between 1804 and 1806 by Francis Rawdon Hastings, the 2nd Earl of Moira. Sadly, however, for Moira, the furnace had a short working life of only about 18 months in total. Due to a catastrophic fire, the furnace's life ended. All was not lost though. It was turned into homes, which preserved it for future generations. Today, Moira Furnace is in the capable hands of the Moira Furnace Museum Trust, who also own this fine narrowboat, the Joseph Wilkes. So without further ado, let's take to the water of the Ashby Canal. Just while we wait for the opening of the swing bridge to allow our passage, let's look at the Ashby Canal, the construction of which started in 1794. 10 years later, when it was opened in 1804, it was 30 miles long and lock-free. However, in 1944 it was abandoned and filled in between Moira and Donisthorpe. In 2000, restoration began, and a centre section of 3 was opened here at Moira, which allowed the first Moira Canal Festival to take place. The canal gained its first lock in 2003 and carried on to Conkers, the National Forest Visitor Centre, and in 2005 was extended to Donisthorpe. When you're at Moira, a trip on the Joseph Wilkes on the Ashby Canal is a must, especially as you get to see the first and as yet only lock on the Ashby Canal. And let's face it, it's a little bit strange. It's not like any other lock because it's got 3 gates, and it has 3 gates for a reason. It's a water saving feature to allow shorter boats to use a shortened lock. Pure genius. During the First World War, the canal was breached just below the blast furnace. However, it was recut quickly to allow the war material, in other words coal, to get through, and the canal won a reprieve. Had it been peacetime, it would have been abandoned. However, when the canal was recut along a new route, it moved away from these, Moira's marvellous bank of 7 lime kilns. These are draw kilns, and literally air was drawn in through the base of these giant crucible-like pots. As you can see, each crucible has 2 draw holes. These giant pots would have been filled with limestone and of course coal, which was plentiful in the area, and would have smouldered away, and the lime would have turned to a fine powder and then would have been taken out of the draw holes and used for mortar and of course for breaking down clay soils in agriculture. Sadly, due to health and safety, the tops of the kilns are now off limits and have had to be fenced off. This particular section of the Ashby Canal is only 1.5 miles long and stands alone. It is to be hoped in the not too distant future that it will be joined with the rest of the Ashby Canal. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, so we hope you've enjoyed Moira and the Ashby Canal and hope you visit there. So until next time, we'll see you then.